Hey guys, I just landed in Salt Lake City getting back from New Hampshire. Just letting my truck warm up before I take off. Apparently, while I was in the air, Donald Trump signed the stimulus bill. So, I got to do a little bit more research on what's happening next because he's talking about how he wants to line veto certain things, but it sounds like he can't. I mean, once he signs it, it's out of his control, and there's something about a 45 wait day period that he's trying to use, but he's not going to have that anyway because he's only going to be president for like 25 more days. So, from what I know now, it sounds like it's inevitable this thing is going to become law, or it is law, and it might not take action until Joe Biden is president, but either way, we've got it. So, I'm not surprised. I'm just really disappointed. A lot of you guys probably saw my video, the live video I did the night that Trump gave his press conference. I was almost giddy because I was so shocked that he was taking a stand against it. And then he vetoed the NDAA bill, a day later or something, and that was shocking because that hadn't been done for 60 years. So I thought maybe he's just feeling unbridled because he's on his way out. He won't have to deal with the consequences of his actions, so maybe he's just gonna go out swinging. So I had some hope, but obviously, just like typical Trump, he grandstands, makes a big scene, and at the end of the day, he just capitulates and does whatever the establishment wants him to do. And I'm already seeing his diehard followers do mental gymnastics to support this move, even though they were calling, obviously I was last week saying we should put these people in prison who voted for this bill, and they were 100% with me. Yeah, throw them in prison. This is treason. And now that their boy signed the bill, they're kind of quiet. And obviously I'm saying we should throw him in prison for this. But guys, this is why I didn't vote for Trump. Because this is who he is. He's a con artist. He's not working against the establishment. He's not draining the swamp. He is the swamp. He's just, the only reason they don't like him. Why do I get the feeling the end goal here is to get people raging and clashing on the streets? Well, it's getting to the point where that's all that's going to happen, because obviously voting doesn't do anything, at least voting for Democrats and Republicans, but I don't know. I'm not optimistic about the future voting our way out of this. I mean, we are hammering the accelerator toward a brick wall, and we're not pressing the brakes, and we don't have airbags, and we don't have our seatbelts on. We're just going to hit hard, and we're not doing anything to correct our course. But as I was saying, this is Trump. It's who he is. So, I mean, things are not going to be that much different under Biden. People are acting like we're suddenly going to be taken over by a completely different force. I think it'll be a little bit worse, but it's a marginal change from where we've come. He was pardoning the Blackwater Guards a couple days ago, and I talked about that in one of my live streams. I said, look, he's a shit president. He's pardoning war criminals instead of Julian Assange or Edward Snowden or Ross Ulbricht or anybody, who deserves a pardon. He's giving it to those schmucks. So that's who he is, So I'm going to level with you guys. I think, and you hear this from a lot of Republicans and Democrats, and when they say it, it's kind of dumb because they're like, oh, this is our last election to save us from socialism, or this is our last election to save us from fascism. It's the last election to protect democracy. They say that every year, But I'm being serious when I say that I think the clock is really ticking, and if we can't turn this country around in the next several years, we're toast. And I think it's already to the point that we can't divert disaster now. I think our best shot at really diverting disaster was electing Ron Paul in 2012, and we obviously didn't do that. At this point, we've just made a cut that's too deep and too wide. Disaster is inevitable, so now it's, you know, we've already gone off the cliff in the truck, and we need to deploy the parachute. That's what we're fighting over now. We're aiming toward the water or the rocks and deciding whether or not to deploy a parachute. And you know, they've got us fighting about whether or not we should have the windshield wipers on while the vehicle's flying off the cliff, instead of whether or not we should deploy the parachute. And that's what my biggest thing has been about. That's why my biggest message has been about unity on the important things, because it's getting to the point where even sort of big differences that we might have don't matter anymore. You know, it sounds like they're going to vote on a $2,000 per person stimulus bill tomorrow, maybe. Who cares? I honestly don't care if it passes, especially when it comes to inflation and the dollar value. Like, I mean, you guys know my position on that. I'm not bullish on the dollar. I think we're going to see it decrease in value, and I think the world is going to finally have enough of us. And I think that's going to happen very soon. It's hard to put a year on it, but I think sometime in the next few years, the dollar is not going to be the world reserve currency. Our Congress doesn't represent us. It has to be dismantled and no existing congressperson allowed back in. Clean slate so they know not to mess around. Congress corruption needs consequences. So, that's from Jesse 2020. Who are you going to vote for? You know, if that's how you feel, if you think we can vote our way out of this, how are you going to get people to vote differently? That's why I'm focusing so much on, you know, education, like just getting the facts out there about what's happening. That's why I do a lot of videos on our monetary policy, because I feel like people just don't know why things are as screwed up as they are. Because you can push a party, you can push candidates, but at the end of the day, you've got to convince people why they need to vote for different candidates or different parties, or why they need to hold certain beliefs. You know, like you've got to change people's hearts and minds in order to change the system. Because if you can get someone to vote for a libertarian or something, you know, cool, but what are they going to do next time? Like, if you haven't changed their mind about what's going on and convinced them there's a problem, then you haven't succeeded. But you know, Amash Gabbard 2024, I'm all about the unity thing. I think we're running out of options. If this doesn't happen, you know, I've talked about running for Congress someday and staying involved, but I honestly don't know if I will. If we obviously don't want change in the imminent years, I think it's a waste of time to try to change the system. The only mode of survival at that point is operating outside of the system. So I would suggest that people know how to do, that you know how to do basic work so that you can fix your own things. You can work on your house if you have to, depending on what type of lifestyle you have. I suggest people own currencies outside the dollar, like I do. I suggest people own guns. You know, I think you should start looking outside of the government for help, because the government does not seem to be willing to change at all, and I don't know if the people are going to wake up and still change it while they can. It seems like we're going to get to the point where we just need to work outside of it. But I got to get going. It's pretty late. I hope you guys had a good Christmas. This is obviously very disappointing, even though it shouldn't be surprising. But hang in there. And like I've said before, take care of each other and take care of yourselves, because obviously the government is not going to do it. So you can hold your breath on this $2,000 stimulus payment. Maybe it'll come through, maybe it won't. But don't count on help from above, because it's probably not going to come. Just do the best to keep helping each other through mutual aid. But Happy New Year, everyone. I'll probably check in tomorrow once I know more about what's going on with this bill. But as far as I know now, it is law, and all that shit that I talked about the other day is going to get funded. But I'll catch you guys later.